All right, so in this video, we're going to talk about one facet of the ACT, SAT math fundamentals. One area in which students struggle frequently is in turning words into numbers and vice versa. And that is to say, when students are given word problems, they often have a hard time kind of taking the words that are given and then converting them into numerical expressions. So in this video, my focus was mainly to show you some of the trickier aspects of turning words into numbers. I'm not going to go over every detail because some of them are very straightforward. So hopefully you'll see what I mean, but let's just go straight into it. So when we talk about subtraction, I find that a lot of students tend to confuse these expressions. The first bullet point is probably the most problematic one that I see, and that is that when we're told that 5 is less than 10, students often tend to think that means 5 minus 10, right? That the two are equivalent statements. They are absolutely not. Okay, so familiarize yourself with these three bullet points because they are all equivalent statements. So when I say 5 less than 10, that's the same thing as saying 10 minus 5, which in turn is the same thing as saying 5 subtracted from 10. Okay? This is relatively straightforward. Just be very careful so that you're not confused. Okay? All right. This one's a little bit more difficult, but with paying close attention, this should also be fairly straightforward. So let's look at the first bullet point. We see that 4 is increased by a factor of 5, which in this case means 4 times 5. Okay, so anytime you increase a number by a factor of another number, you're multiplying the two. Okay, and the next bullet point is a little bit trickier, but again, when we talk about division and multiplication, they're reciprocals of each other. So when I say 4 is decreased by a factor of 5, doesn't mean you subtract. Okay, don't get that confused. It means you multiply by the reciprocal of 5, which is 1/5. Okay, so 4 decreased by a factor of 5 is the same thing as saying 4 times 1/5. That's equal to 4/5. Okay, all right. Now we're dealing with multiplication of percentages or percent increases. And this is another really fundamental aspect of both the ACT and SAT math. And so when we are told that 4 is increased by 25%, note how I write this out, okay? Be very attentive when it comes to kind of writing out these steps. Observe how I write it as follows: 4 times the quantity, 1 plus 0.25, okay? Or in short, 4 times 1.25. Now, this may seem pretty straightforward, pretty trivial, but a lot of times students will say 4 times 0.25, which would then give you 1, right? Now, of course, you could do that and then add that to 4. 4 times 1. But let's see here. Oh, these numbers are actually incorrect. So let me go back. So 4 times 1.25 is actually 5. And 4 times 0.75 is going to give you 3. So that is my mistake. But let's go right back into it. Okay, so anyway, that doesn't change anything. I just had some errors. Don't make that mistake. But yeah, 4 increased by 25% will give you 5. And 4 decreased by 25% is the same thing as saying now we're subtracting. Now we're subtracting 0.25 from 1. Okay, so 4 times the quantity, 1 minus 0.25, or in other words, 4 times 0.75, which is 3. Okay, let's look at some examples. All right, Henrietta is 40 inches less than twice the height of Malachi, who is 4 inches taller than Georgie. If Georgie is 60 inches tall, how tall is Henrietta? All right, a lot of information here, but take it one step at a time. we're given that Georgie is 60 inches tall, and we're given two numerical expressions that relate Malachi and Georgie's height and Henrietta's and Malachi's height. So again, one step at a time. So we are given that Georgie is 60 inches tall, and we're told that Malachi is 4 inches taller than Georgie. So we know that Malachi is 64 inches tall. Okay? Probably the biggest problem that students would face on this type of problem is in setting up the equation for Henrietta's height. Okay, so note that Henrietta, okay, let's go back, is 40 inches less than twice the height of Malachi. Or in other words, Henrietta is 2m minus 40. Okay? Henrietta is 2m minus 40. H equals 2m minus 40. And that is to say that Henrietta is 40 inches less than twice the height of Malachi. Okay, and you plug in the numbers. Don't make any silly arithmetic, errors at this point. You should get 68 inches. Okay, so Henrietta is 68 inches tall. All right. Example problem 2. Bart receives a 25% increase in his hourly pay. If his hourly pay was originally $10, what is his new hourly pay? Okay, so again, 25% increase is the same thing as saying that we increase by a factor of 1.25. So let's look at that. Original hourly pay is $10. So the new hourly, so many typos here. New hourly pay is an increase of 1.25, or in other words, 10 times the quantity, 1 plus 0.25, or 10 times 1.25. So his new pay is $12.50. So hopefully this makes sense. I try to make these videos as short as possible so that you can really soak these things in. The ACT and SAT math are really about just absorbing the fundamental concepts and practicing as much as you can. So they're typically not very difficult. They're just abundant. So there's just a wide breadth of concepts that you have to expose yourself to. And so my goal with these YouTube videos will be to present a range of concepts and to really examine the ones that are either the most difficult or the trickiest. All right.